And while there's quite a few of us in this space, a growing number of us, though, are not, some of us are in recovery from drugs and alcohol. I'm one of those. I am in recovery from alcohol. I had a 40-year relationship with that stuff, and we broke up for good. But everybody in this space, whether you know it or not, is in recovery from something. Life just is that way. So we are looking at the 12 steps of AA from a strictly spiritual perspective. I am not walking through, I'm not talking to you about your alcohol. I'm not talking to you about your drugs. I just want to talk to you about your spiritual life and what it looks like putting it into action through the foundations of what the 12 steps teach. Last week was profoundly emotional for me because I had unfinished business that I didn't realize was unfinished. I don't know if it's because I truly didn't realize it was unfinished or because I was stubbornly choosing to hang on to it. Because I have an ego. And I'll share some of my process during the week of what I navigated and faced and put to rest over the course of this week from last week. It's been a profoundly healing week for me, and I'm excited to talk about this with you today. So let's get into it, because those that know me know I can sometimes talk, and we'll see what happens. So, God, let's see what you have to say. Did you know that this making amends and saying I'm sorry is far more than just saying some words? And boy, do I wish I could just say some words and make it be done. It'd be easy then. Real easy. I said the words, it's all finished, everything's hunky-dory, it's good to go and better than ever. And unfortunately, or realistically, that just is not reality. That Greek word, I like using those so you know I'm actually researching where this stuff comes from and what God teaches from, and it's Apodidomi. Say that a bunch of times fast, but it literally means giving back what is due. In the teaching in the Bible, it comes from this particular word. So as we face this making of amends, because last week we talked about just becoming willing to make a list of those people that we have harmed and caused hurt and harm to. That's a difficult thing to do. It's being very real with yourself. It's openly owning my part of everything I have chosen to do. We're talking about the follow through. What are we going to do with that list? Because much like an apology, if we've just put it on a list and said, yep, I did them wrong, I hurt them, yep, did that too, and just left it at that, it's just words. It's just words on a paper that don't mean anything unless you followed through with this part. And this is what we're talking about, the giving back what is due and what that looks like in different situations and scenarios. It's a settlement, a full and complete settlement. So when you go to leave, you are leaving completely free. As I found out hard last week, God showed me just how not free I was because I insisted on carrying something. The right to carry guilt and shame over harm I caused my kids. That was on my shelf. I didn't give that one up because I thought I have to feel that way. They're my kids. I caused harm, not physical. Emotional, mental, yes. I was gone a lot. So yeah, I beat myself up regularly because I'm supposed to do that as a mom. We're going to talk about that. I was wrong. Zacchaeus and the math of mistakes. We're going to talk about amend making, looking at Zacchaeus and why he chose to do what he did. Some of us that grew up in church maybe grew up with that song, Zacchaeus was a wee little man was he. Zacchaeus was that sitting up in that whole cute little ditty. But I never got the fundamentally most important part of this story. So instead of reading a lot, I'm going to tell you the story of Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus was a Jew who actually worked for the government of that time, which was not Jewish, so he worked for the government. And he was a tax collector, which meant he defrauded people. He stole from his own people. He caused immense hardship with his own people, and he left his own people without a sense of comfort, without a sense of stability, because he overcharged them. Not only did they have to pay all the taxes, he added on to it and he pocketed it. They had no sense of stability. It was a frightening time to live. They didn't have the money, but they had to have the money or that's going to be real bad for them. And here's little Zacchaeus getting wealthier and wealthier and wealthier and wealthier. But when God gets a hold of you, remarkable things happen, and that happened to Zacchaeus. Jesus caught Zacchaeus up in a tree because he was short of stature. He climbed up in the tree because he wanted to take a look and hear this Jesus, and Jesus called him down. Why? He let Zacchaeus know that, hey, I'm going to your house today for lunch. Okay, I got Jesus coming to my house, and people were horrified. You're going to his house? The man who's robbing from us, stealing from us, taking everything from us. We have no security. We have nothing. We're dirt poor. Nothing. But do you know what happened to Zacchaeus because he met Jesus? Jesus, in talking to him, heard the words from his mouth saying, if I've taken and stolen from people, I repay 4 times back. He took 100, he's given the 100 back plus 4 times more. Well, I've read that a whole lot of times, but nobody stopped to explain why he did that. This isn't in the Bible because the Bible is saying, well, if you stole from somebody, multiply it by 4, and legally that's per the Bible, you have to pay that back. No, this was Zacchaeus clearing the ledger, because what had he really taken? He had taken their security. He had taken from them their ability to have a secure life in food and their needs met. Just restoring that basic amount that he stole wasn't going to give them back what he had taken from them. He chose to give of his own that he had gotten through wrong means, far and above what he had taken, to the point that it caused him to be in a financially poor position. Why? Because he was attempting to restore to them the security of living that he had robbed from them. That's amends. If you have stolen money from somebody, stop and think, is it simply money that I've taken from them? Or have I taken peace of mind? That's got to be part of the amends you give back. Zacchaeus was showing what he had done was far more than he just took money from people. He robbed them of so much more, and the only way he had of trying to restore some of that to make it right was to not only repay what he had stolen, but to do it 4 times beyond that. So they would be set up solid and secure in a life that didn't leave them wondering, how am I going to clothe my children or feed my family or provide? And Jesus said that was proof that salvation was coming to the house, not because he paid money. Jesus doesn't do pay to play. What he was saying, that change of heart, the fact that he recognized, I have to go above and beyond because I have more than just money to restore. I have security and peace of mind that I have to try and restore. I took that from them. Zacchaeus recognized fully what he robbed. And he fully, without being asked, Jesus didn't tell him to do this. The knowledge of Jesus causes us to understand how we have to repay back. It's not just a simple, oh, I stole this from you. Here it is back. We all good now? No, you damaged how they see you, how they feel about you. They don't trust you any longer, or they may not feel safe around you. That's part of our amends in those situations also. How about the prodigal son? We talk quite a bit about this. In the amends making, he started that when he became willing to realize who he was, what he had given up, and what he had done. His amends to his father started, I am walking back home to make it right to my father. I am going to beg to be a servant to him. I am going to own fully everything I did to my dad. I told my dad that I wasn't willing to wait for him to die, that I wanted his money now, and he gave it to me. And look what I did. I wasted it all. And we've talked about that prodigal son and how that could so easily have been us in our addiction walks, squandering everything for that life out on the streets, because that's what he did. You know, I don't know what we think when we read the Bible. Do we not understand that when he left home, he did exactly what we did when we walked away? Gambling, money, the drinking. I don't know what the drug scene was back in the day, but they certainly had access to them. Women using people, all of this stuff, the fast life, until you're reduced to sitting in a pig pen fighting with them for food. How easy do you think it was for him to be willing to make these amends? Can you imagine the shame he felt having to go back and face his father? And that's where a lot of us find ourselves. I can't even face my family. They don't want to see me. Look what I have done, the shame I've brought to the family, the choices I've made, the hurt that I've caused. I can't even face them. And that very shame and guilt is what keeps so many of us already in addiction, stuck in our addiction. That overwhelming, I can't look at myself in the mirror because I know what I'm capable of because I've done it. Family's better off without me. Notice how the ego starts to crawl in there, and that's right, it's okay. You don't have to make amends on this. I know it's pretty bad, and you're right. You've really caused some damage. They probably don't want to see you. So no, just sit here and think about it, and how good is he at that job? Our enemy is good. He's really good. Because I found out this past week in my making amends with my personal family, my kids, we'll just keep it at my kids. There's still my dad who's still living, my siblings who are all living, nieces, nephews, all this stuff. I've made my amends to them. I've gone as far as I'm going with that. But with my kids, I never finished that. I didn't put that one away like I had with my father and my siblings and that entire family that threw me away. I'm good and I'm at peace with it. I even expressed gratitude to God that he understood that was the only way he was going to bring me to my freedom. But the one I didn't put away was my shame and my guilt over my kids. The shame and guilt I feel as a pastor who is a mother who has 4 kids who refuse to speak to her. That's hard stuff for me to own and admit, but I'm not alone in that. You may not be a pastor, but you may be a parent who has estranged kids. I feel for you and I identify with you. But what I found when I did my amends with my kids is I wrote it in a way. Poured my heart out like it was a beautifully written novel. I was so good in writing down all that I was sorry for. It got pretty wordy. And I sent it, and guess what? I had to look in the mirror and say, I was upset because I didn't get the response I wanted because I did my stuff. You're supposed to come back now. I owned everything and then some. I owned all of it, you know. I didn't get my kids running to meet me when they saw me coming back. No, they buckled down more. So then I found myself making amends to them over and over and over every chance I got. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for this and this and this and this and this. Didn't I already do that? Was I not sorry then? I was. When it comes to the family members in our life, those that we are so close to, we have a really difficult time with this one and putting it where it needs to go. Especially if we look at it from our Christian faith perspective. Because what that means for me is when I make amends, that means I am fully receiving what I get back in return. I just have to clear up my side of the street with no expectation. I have to trust God that that's the answer I get back, that it's not further punishment, because I saw it as punishment. I'm still not good enough. God is not punishing me and standing in the way of that restoration happening. Some days I struggle with that, and I want to say He is. Because God, you could fix all this just like that. And He could. And He could. But I'm recognizing that's me expecting Him to do for me because I did something. So I gave it to Him fully. It hurts. And it's raw because I have to let go of my expectation. My amends is not done so I can get what I want. That was my ego. I made a really good amends. How come you're not coming back? Doing amends is not to be done because you're going to get something. Doing amends happens because, God, I am trying to be faithful to you and you have called me to this. You have called me to this life and the journey that my life has taken, and I am giving up the right for it to be about me and what I want. I found out this past week how fiercely stubborn I am because I don't want to give up what feels like giving up my kids. And God's like, you're not giving them up. Do you love them less? Absolutely not. Okay, so love your kids. It just doesn't look like what you wanted it to look like. And how many of us have those relationships in our life? But I didn't want it to look like this. I wanted this. For moms, you know, when we're holding those little babies, didn't you kind of think of the future? Surrounded by, you know, your kids and their partners and grandkids and everybody there. Don't tell me I'm wrong. Don't we think about that? I did. I have 6 kids. I pictured my house just filled to the brim. Holidays are going to be amazing. Nobody comes on holidays. Doesn't look like I thought it was going to look at all. And guess what? Thank you, God, for knowing better. Because I see so plainly now that if it looked like what I wanted it to look like, I would not be here. I'd be sitting probably in that place I came from, hating it, not having a relationship with God like I should have in a denomination, but I would be there because my family's all there and my kids are all there and their kids are growing up there and that's where they're going to school and that's where I'd be and I'd have all my family. And I wouldn't have this deep, rich, close spiritual relationship with God because he allowed it to all be taken away. How would I not thank God for that? My children are still loved fiercely till the day I die. But God loves them more. Oh. So as we face these difficult things of that, making the amends to our family, you have to shed every expectation of how you want it received. They may not receive it at all. That's what I got. At all. Or they may want to add to the list of things you forgot to say sorry to. You may not be welcomed back the way you wanted to be. You may not get restored to you everything that you really want. It may never, ever be what you had hoped, but I promise you, I can promise you with every fiber of my being that God knows what he's doing even in that. That he did not call you to live in permanent shame and guilt over anything. His son paid for that. And that's what it came down to for me. Did God know about the situation with my children and with my family? He sure did. Did Jesus cover that too? All of it. God's like, what are you doing? What are you doing then? Trust me or not. And I had to make a choice to trust him. And I promise you, I would play tug of war with God all week before I gave this one up. Because humanly speaking, it feels like we're supposed to keep those emotions. We're supposed to feel shameful and guilt because I wasn't there like I should have. I caused harm. I didn't do this. I didn't. And there's a million reasons. But it still doesn't mean that God called you to hang on to that and see that in the mirror every time you looked. Because Jesus is like, I covered that too. That pain and that hurt that you feel, I covered it. The shame, the guilt, I took that too. Like, I did that for you. So you could put it back on, or so you could live freely and lightly. This was a big moment for me since last week. Like last week, I was at war with myself. I had started a letter to each one of my kids again, thinking maybe this time they'll want it. I'm not sending them, they're gone. I've already done this and I meant it. So what do? We live it out every day. My life is a living amends to my kids, whether they're in my life or not. They are going to watch me, because I know they watch me, being the best version of myself I can possibly be, of loving people well, of being a servant, of just living my life genuinely. Onesimus, we don't talk about him much in church. He was a slave who ran away from the owner. And remember, this is a culture we're not going to get into. I am not saying slavery is good. I don't get on board with slavery. Pay the people who work for you. However, in this culture, he had run away and had taken from the household he ran from. He had both a legal debt now that he paid because he was now a fugitive, but he also had a financial debt because he stole. Paul, in his attempt to bridge this, because this household he fled from was a church family, he wanted this individual restored in position, in standing, because Onesimus he believed. And now he is off in a far off land to where he'd run. How can he go back? How are we going to do this? Paul said, I will stand in that gap. Whatever he owes you, put it on my ledger so it's all free and clear. Take all that away from him. I'll settle up. But put it on my ledger and I'll make it right. So he could come back and things could be better than they were before. He's coming back fully restored, because when a debt was cleared, a debt was cleared. They don't make you continue to pay. I think our penal system should learn something from that. Can I get an amen? Yeah. So when that debt was paid, it was paid and they're fully restored. And that's what Paul's desire was for him. So he could return to him not as a fugitive, and that's the important part, but as a brother in Jesus. That was the goal. How do we restore him to full standing? And what a beautiful example that is of what God has done through us, for us, through Jesus, who acted as the bridge. Weren't we the runaways? We were. What did we steal from God? We kind of destroyed this world he created, broke it, right? We brought death and decay into this world through the fall. So how do we get back? How are we restored? How do we make amends in this when it is absolutely impossible? That one can only be done through Jesus. Sometimes we incur debts that are so great, we know there is no way we can ever fully make amends for them. We find ourselves incapable. Think of somebody who has broken the law so profoundly. Like there is a legal penalty for this. How do I make amends to a family? Let's say you murdered somebody. How do you make amends to that family? Do you think money will be good in here? How much for your brother? Well, good? Are we good now? Call it good. Let's shake hands and move. It doesn't work that way, right? What do you do? What would you do? What would God call you to do? Because sometimes God may say, your freedom is going to be found in owning it so fully that you are willing to spend your life behind bars every day for the rest of your life and joyfully see it as making amends. This is what I'm willing to pay for what I have taken from you. I can't imagine being in that position, the idea of it. I just couldn't imagine. But at the same time, do you think you're ever going to find freedom outside of if you never own it? Do you think you're ever going to be fully at peace? Those things you think that are way too big, there's no way I will ever find freedom. Yeah, you can. Yes, you can. But you may be called to do something very difficult, but God will help you. Just because, let's go with the worst case scenario, but that means I'll go to prison. It might be, if that's what you've chosen to do. Do you think God won't be with you there? What do you think God would do through you in that space when you are doing it as a living amends? Can you imagine? People would look at you like you have lost your mind. What? Andrew, I can't even begin to imagine what you'd be thinking. You're glad to be here to make living amends? What? But that's possible through God. I've had the privilege of seeing and meeting people who've made profound differences in their time behind bars, in situations that looked impossible, of seeing inmates who are serving life so full of God they can't wait to pour it into the other people there. You think God doesn't work there too? It's amazing to see these inmates just shouting praise music at the top of their lungs, jumping into the baptism pool. Like, why don't we do that? Why don't we? They're not ashamed. Like, they found freedom in prison. The one place you'd think you couldn't find freedom. Ask my husband where God found him. Solitary confinement for 2 years. If you know my husband, 2 years of solitary, can you imagine?
I had a lot of staff meetings.
Yes. Yes. God will find you no matter where you are. He says, I know your heart. You have to do the right thing, even when it's hard. It all comes down to that heart, that changed heart. Zacchaeus, he shows us sometimes if we've really taken from people possessions or money or those types of things, we need to go beyond in our thinking when we make amends. Is just repaying that debt enough, or did we take more because we have to be ready to take care of that too? Settling the debt, sometimes the debt is too big for us to pay. Do you think Onesimus thought he was going to be able to repay that? How in the world? I've got nothing. Someone stepped in and paid it. He still had to go back. He didn't know what was going to happen. Jesus does that for us. He repays those things that we couldn't possibly repay. But we may have a consequence here. We still have to be willing to do that joyfully. The prodigal son, he shows us that sometimes we feel like we have walked so far away from our family and the people who love us and the people that we love. We sometimes feel like we have gone too far back to ever be redeemed and restored. And for some of us, we may not be restored to where we were. We may not get back those who we're so far from. That's just the honest truth of it all. But in spite of what's going to happen, there is an absolute joy in the being willing and following through, of freeing yourself from all that weight that kept you so far away. Because the only way that prodigal started that walk back is because he somehow got over the shame and the guilt enough to say, I'm willing to face them. I'm willing to say, I would love to be your servant. Can I be a servant here? They're eating better than me. You don't make your servants fight with the animals to get some food. He had no idea, but he was willing and he did it. The walking back was his making amends to his dad. All of those things, the reason we do this, the reason why we take our amends so seriously and make sure that we do this to the best of our ability and not just the easy way out, because nobody likes this part of it. Nobody likes owning all the things that they've done. Nobody likes facing the people they've harmed. Nobody. If you know somebody that was excited to do that, come, send them here. I've not heard anybody say, I'm so excited to do this. But man, the other side of this, in spite of how it's received, having your conscience free and clear, living a life without shame and guilt, oh, God has reassured me He did not call me to live a life of shame and guilt and loss. What did Jesus do for me if I lived my entire life with shame and guilt and loss? Because God looks amazing when people see me living life and have no idea how much loss is in my life. Because my life is based on joy. Why? Because I have salvation. Salvation is healing and wholeness, a full restoration. Heaven's not filled with people who still sin or get it wrong or fail. That's what He's bringing us to. But if you've noticed, we did not wake up in heaven today. This isn't heaven. And it's why this will never, ever feel like heaven. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be easy. God never promised it would. Things are going to be hard. Things are going to hurt, and there's going to be losses. You know, this Bible that we read and we love, because it's this love story from God, it's filled with stories of perfect people who got it right every single time and never did anything wrong, right? Let me introduce you to Genesis, where it started in this book. Over and over and over and over again, this is filled with stories of people who did it wrong, who failed, who fell, who sinned, who hurt people, and yes, even murdered people. And why do we have this? So we could read words like God saying about a murderer, this is a man after my own heart. Because he murdered somebody? No, because he so fully owned his part in it. Because he so openly repented of what he'd done. Because he fully was willing to receive the penalty that he owed. The grief he felt as he watched this child die. That child that was a result of his sin. David got to watch the innocent party die while he had to keep living. Do you think he didn't suffer? Day after day after day, begging and pleading with God for this child's life. He wouldn't eat. He wouldn't come out of his room endlessly. Please spare this child. Please spare this child. Please spare this child. Please don't. Please, no. Don't you think he wanted that to be him? Why isn't it me? I deserve to die. I murdered her husband and then took her body, got her pregnant, and now I'm going to watch his baby die. Can you imagine? Fully aware, this is my fault. This blood is all on my hands. But salvation came to David. His heart was so fully and completely changed and contrite. There's so much more to making amends than just a simple transaction. Hey, sorry about what I did. Yeah, let bygones be bygones. I'm sorry. Let's move along. It's why your amends can never be, hey, you want to bury the hatchet on that and let's just move on and everything be great from here on out. It doesn't work that way. It just simply doesn't work that way. Because words without action isn't truth. So, how do you make amends to yourself? You have to restore yourself also, body, mind, and soul. Part of the amends making we talked about last week was our difficulty in adding ourselves to that list of people that we have harmed, that we need to address also. Because we are, in fact, dealing with a child of God who is precious beyond words and deeply loved. Years of neglect, verbal self-abuse, and treating your mind and body poorly. Has anybody done that at all ever? Who? I have. Nobody can say meaner things to me than I can. Nobody can give you a list of flaws about Heidi more than I could. Nobody can trash myself more than I can. Nobody can hate me more than I used to. So what do? How do you give back to yourself what you stole from yourself? Well, you stop cheating yourself and live the life that Jesus died to give you. And what kinds of things are in that kind of a life? Fruit of the Spirit, right? Love, joy. Let's stop on that one a second. I think that came second in the list because love is the greatest commandment. Joy, because God knew how difficult that would be to live a life of joy in a world that's so difficult. Peace. How much joy and peace do you have if you're living in guilt and shame? It's fruit of the Spirit, not fruits with an S. That means these need to be evident in my life. Joy and peace don't come if you're already existing in guilt and shame. That was a hard lesson to learn this week, personally. I'm not going to lie. How thick is my foundation of joy if it can go that quickly? Means there's some work that needed to be done. This also means that you can't work yourself to death trying to prove to everybody what an awesome, productive citizen you are. Yeah, I work a full-time job, and then I work another one on top of that, and sometimes, I work all the time. Nobody can outwork me, and then I get home, and I'm going to work. My house is going to look amazing. I'm great at my job. I'm doing this. I'm always work. Busy. We're not called to that life. Sabbath. When's the last time you've taken deliberately a Sabbath like God commanded? Not a suggestion. And a Sabbath is far more than, I had a couple hours that I just kind of relaxed and took a nap. No, Sabbath keeping is refilling your spiritual well. When have you last done that? When? Well, I'm busy and I'll get to it. We can reference back to God and His commands, and if you're excluded if you're busy. No. If you want to go through the Bible, you feel free, mark down all the verses that said people that are too busy don't have to do as I commanded. And how strange is it that we live in a world that so often likes to put the word lazy on somebody that stepped away from work that, yes, does need to be done, but I'm taking a Sabbath. But there's work to do. How could you lay that on finished. Are you lazy? Don't you see there's dishes to do? What are you doing? I am laying on my back in the backyard, looking up through the trees, watching the leaves and the birds flying by, having the most beautiful moment with God. That's what I'm doing. Dishes can wait. Laundry can wait. Email can wait. Playing games on your phone can wait.
Still talking to you.
Why is it we so resist the most beautiful command God has given us? I want you to take time off from everything and just relax and rest with me. Too busy. Think of a celebrity, an athlete, somebody you just really look up to, a musician. I don't care who it is. Just think of somebody you just think is awesome. And let's say they're like, I'm coming to town. I'd love to have lunch. Would you be there? Would you? God's here every day. Do you have lunch with him? That convicts me. That convicts me. I am so excited to go to the Sidewalk Prophets concert. I am so excited that I get to meet them personally and share with them what their music has meant in my life. I'm so excited. I should be more excited that I get to spend time with God and Jesus one-on-one personally. Why don't we? When you start to see Sabbath keeping as that, like I get one-on-one time with the creator of the universe, like you want to talk about a rock star, that would be it. What can you do? Like I made all this, what can you do? I didn't even have anything here. I said it and there it was. What can you do? What can anybody on this planet do that even begins to rival what he's done? Too busy? Okay. He won't force you. But is he going to be too busy with those who love him to deal with you when your time comes? Or is it going to be, I don't know you. You never spent time with me. It might have looked like it occasionally on the surface. That's why this is beautiful. I love people coming here and gathering as the church. But this building isn't the church. You are. That means you should be interacting with and talking with God all the time. Excited for Sabbath, like it should be the best day of your week. Why not? So you can just put your feet up and forget about everything. Sometimes that's part of it, but don't eliminate God from that equation. Part of restoring your life and self also means who are you surrounding yourself with? Because it does matter. It doesn't mean take yourself right out of this world and live in like this weird little cult bubble. I can tell you what happens when people do that. It's not good. It's not good. Like, real cults, as we joke about here. That's right, we do. Yeah, a real cult. Not good. Not a good community. But you need to be in good community. I love this community of people coming as you are with everything that you've lived, every journey that you've taken, every mistake you've ever made, and all the amazing things you've ever done. We serve a God who is spirit. He doesn't walk through here like a human does in a human body that we can visually see that like I can see all of you? Why do you think he indwells in us? So we do see him everywhere we go. And how often do you look at everybody that way? Some people it's harder. I'm not the only one that thinks that, and I know that, so don't you dare say, oh, I see everybody as a child of God, and I love them all the same, easily. No, you don't.
I do, but there's some that I could have get close to, warm up to if I was cremated with.
That's why I love this community. Your community matters a great deal. The people you surround yourself will affect your life in the direction that it goes. Being part of the community is that you are both known by others and you seek to know others. Like, I really want to know you. I want to know about you. Why? Because then I know how to love you and support you. Moms who are sitting in this space right now dealing with hurt and grief and sorrow and pain and shame and guilt and all the woulda, coulda, shouldas. I'm probably on notebook number 5,000 filled with all the times I woulda, coulda, shoulda. You know what's not sitting on me as I said those words? That 10,000-pound weight that just used to squeeze my heart when I would say the words woulda, coulda, shoulda. My mind would immediately like, oh. And I would physically feel just the agony of that. I'm just delighted I said those words and I don't feel that. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. I could woulda, coulda, shoulda to my last breath. Does it change anything back then? God reminded me, kid, who's in charge? Who allowed to happen what happened? Do you think I didn't know the direction you were going and where you were going to end up? I knew that before you went there. Even that, yep, even that. Even that. He says, I allowed it. Why? Because I knew what you were going to bring back from your journey. Stop cheating yourself out of the life God intended for you. Shame and guilt cheats you. This is a life God intended for me, but he intended it for me now, not 40 years ago. 40 years ago, God said, there's a journey she's got to take. So she's going to be ready for the life I have for her. It's going to hurt. There's going to be losses. She is going to fight against this with every fiber in her being. She's even going to sit there and do church on Sunday and hang on to shame and guilt, even as she's telling other people to clear out their pantries. She's still going to do that, and then I'm going to break her like he did last week. And she'll let go of it. He knew that before I did it. Yeah. So moms, let the work Jesus did be done. It is finished. Guilt, it is finished. Shame, it is finished. Loneliness, it is finished. Loss, it is finished. All of those things, he covered it. All of it. God. How am I doing? We're not going to get through all of it. Sometimes you just do that.
Got a good way to close.
Making of amends. Yeah, the being willing, it's incredibly difficult to get to that point when you understand what being willing means. Am I willing? That's the first question you have to answer. That's a yes or no. Am I willing or am I not? Last week we talked about that. Me personally, I was faced with that choice. Am I willing to do this last bit? Not the making of the amends that I've already done, but the expectation I was waiting for. They're not back yet. My kids you should read my amends. It's like blue ribbon. No AI or nothing. ChatGPT didn't write it. That was my words. Beautiful. Rewritten, redone, ownership. Man, I crucified myself over and over and over and over and over in that. All the stuff, everything, no holds barred, all of it. And then I waited because they're going to read that. They'll be back. It's going to be so good. I'll see Beckett and Elliot again, my grandkids. And God said no. Maybe it's a not yet. I don't know, but guess what? I don't need to know today. I don't have to know that answer today because it wouldn't change how I live my life. I've made the amends and I let go. I have no expectations. Will they be back? I don't know. I pray every day that if it's God's will, they will be back. And then I walk away from it every day. I'm done beating myself up. I'm done with my shame. I'm done with my guilt. I'm done. But what if they aren't done? It's not on me. That means they are on their own journey, and I'm going to allow that to happen in their life. So be willing today to step so fully into what's waiting for you through Jesus. Make the amends. And then leave it. When you walk away, you don't have to bring the shame and guilt with you. It's been paid in full, free and clear. You've been more than restored in God's eyes, the ones that matter. Once again, man, these AA steps, looking at it with a completely different lens, has just changed my life in so many different ways. And it's my hope that God has brought some of that into your life also after we've talked about this. None of this is easy. And there are things you're going to have to do over and over and over again. But I'm already realizing I really like the feel of my heart not feeling like it's getting squeezed to exploding because it hurts so bad. Like I can take a breath and breathe. That's what it used to take out of me. Like my heart stopped beating and I couldn't even get air in my lungs with the loss. My kids aren't lost. It doesn't mean I don't love my kids. It just doesn't look like what I wanted it to look like. So my takeaway to you is this. Do this. Do this step. But do it only if you're fully willing, and be prepared for God to work such amazing things in your life, to fill those spaces that are left with hope and love and joy and mercy. Because that feels so much better than what we've insisted on carrying for so long. You ready to eat, little girl? With that, I will wrap up. My goodness, this slide situation, God had things he wanted to say instead of a slide anyway. So we will close with one last song, and we will head down and eat.